Check it.
Check, check, check.
Yeah, you're on.
Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Friends, we could make such sweet harmony.
Let them not say, we did not see it. We saw. Let them not say, we did not hear it. We heard. Let them not say, they did not taste it. We ate. We trembled. Let them not say, it was not spoken, not written. We spoke. We witnessed with voices and hands. Let them not say, they did nothing. We did not enough. Let them say, as they must say something, a kerosene beauty. It burned. Let them say we warmed ourselves by it, read by its light, praised, and it burned. And won't you join us in the lighting of our chalice with these words spoken together? We'll wait for the slide. We kindle this flame, symbol of our faith, for the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of love, which calls us to work for justice.
Good morning. I'm Ken St. John, he, him. Welcome, everyone, to Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation. Those of you on YouTube and Zoom may see me on camera 1, or camera 2, or camera 3, I don't know, but whichever it is, we're happy to have you with us. Welcome. Let's take a moment now for the sanctuary crowd and the Zoom gallery to wave hello to each other. Let's see, yeah, there we go. You're on camera 3 over there. Excellent. Nice to see you all. Part of it. All right. Now, if you voted in person this past week, or by mail, or if you didn't vote at all, you're all welcome here now. You may have voted all blue or all red or some mix of each. You are welcome here. Whether who or what you voted for won or lost, we're happy to have you with us today. I'd like to extend an especially warm welcome to you first-time visitors or infrequent guests with us today. If you're new on Zoom, please use the chat feature to let your presence be known to the rest of the gallery. Any newcomers in the sanctuary are invited to stand briefly as you are able so that the rest of us can greet you warmly right now. Any visitors in the sanctuary today? Wonderful, thank you and welcome. After the service, there will be opportunities to meet in small groups, both online and in person, including a coffee reception and a welcome circle at the back of the sanctuary and breakout rooms on Zoom. Our lay pastoral care associates this morning are Janet Cantley, with us in the sanctuary, and Joyce Donahue on Zoom. They will both be on call this week for anyone who's in need of someone to talk with.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Katie Seifert, and I'm the Director of Music Ministries. My pronouns are she, her, and I am truly blessed to be with you this morning. Music is a powerful tool in our lives, and my hope is to help expand your own musical toolboxes and playlists that you can draw from in times of need. So I invite you to experience this next song, the music of Bata Lavin, whose pronouns are they, she, and is a Jewish prayer leader, cultural organizer, communal song leader, and singer-songwriter whose music cultivates deep healing and resilience, combining elements of Ashkenazi yearning, queer heart medicine, and emunah, which is Hebrew for faith and trust. According to their website, Lavin believes in the liberatory power of song to untie what is bound within us and sustain us as we build a more just and beautiful world. So perfect right now, the type of musical support we need today. You heard us sing their song, We Rise, a couple weeks ago. This morning, let's sing it again together. This is our opening song and our opening prayer. So please stand and sing in body or in spirit. We Rise by Bata Lavin. We rise, humbly hearted rise, won't be divided, rise, with spirit to guide us, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. We rise, all of the children rise, elders with wisdom rise, ancestors surround us rise, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here in hope, in prayer. We're right here in hope, in prayer. We find ourselves here in hope, in prayer. We're right here, we rise up from the wreckage, rise with tears and with courage, rise fighting for life, we rise in hope, in prayer. We find ourselves here in hope, in prayer. We're right here in hope, in prayer. We find ourselves here in hope, in prayer. We're right here, we rise, humbly hearted, rise, won't be divided, rise, with Spirit to guide us, rise.
Good morning, everyone. I am Marcy Bowden. I'm your Director of Faith Farm Ministries here. I use she, her pronouns. And we have a special time for all ages for you today. No book, sorry, because we have recently had one of our Whole Lives human sexuality classes. And I would like to invite Janet Nash to come forward. Janet has accepted the position of being our OWL coordinator. So this means, yes, thank you. So she's the person that is familiarizing themselves with all of the OWL program, because we do offer the whole class, the whole group of classes, and then helping to schedule all the classes and make sure we have teachers and everything else. So I'm going to turn this graduation over to Janet. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. Janet Nash, she, her. And before I go on and introduce the OWL program that just finished this morning, I'd like to ask our fall 2022 facilitators teams to come forward. We had 2 classes. Our facilitators are Carl Anderson, Cynthia Billett, Chris Saar, and Linda Stenholm. Honest, accurate information about sexuality changes lives. It dismantles stereotypes and assumptions, builds self-acceptance and self-esteem, fosters healthy relationships, improves decision-making, and has the potential to save lives. In an inclusive and developmentally appropriate manner, the program Our Whole Lives, also known as OWL, addresses sensitive topics that other sexuality education, especially those available in public schools, typically exclude. The Unitarian Universalist Association and the United Church of Christ developed the curriculum, but it is completely secular and free of specific religious doctrine or reference. However, the underlying values of the program reflect the justice-oriented and inclusiveness traditions of both denominations, and it gives clear messages about self-worth, sexual health, and responsibility. 7 curricula speak to participants' needs by age group. There are separate classes for grades K through 2, 4 through 6, 7 through 9, 10 through 12, young adults, adults, and older adults. The title, Our Whole Lives, expresses our belief that sexuality education is a lifelong process. While that process begins informally at birth, this particular program for grades 1 through 2 was, for most participants, their first experience with classroom-based sexuality education. This was an 8-session curriculum designed to help 5 to 7-year-old children begin the lifelong process of acquiring information and forming attitudes and values about identity and relationships, safety and health. This curriculum also manifests our belief that parents and caregivers are our children's first and foremost sexual educators, responsible for positive, accurate, and responsible education. The parents attended the entire 8-week class with their children. I'll turn the time over to our facilitators to introduce the children who completed the course. The children will be given a stuffed owl as a gift that they can carry with them through the years, attaching a pin for each new grade level of owl education that they receive. Which one of you is going first?
Okay, not everybody was able to attend today, but when I call your name, please come up and get your owl. Corabelle Runk. Jackson Brooks. Maisie Belote.
Okay. In the second section of our class, we had the following students: Ariana Hurstwicker, okay, Noah Blondie, Noah, Theo Bastard, Theo. Zelda Tamacha. I don't know I've ever seen your last name, Zelda, sorry. Finley Tobias. Let's see, Madison Stewart. Finley, stay here. I don't believe Madison Stewart is with us, and Ezra Kimball, also not with us. But give them a round of applause, too.
Okay, Marcy, turn around and look at me.
I just got to say, the kids and the parents were just amazing. I learned a lot, anyway, from them.
All right, I would like to invite all the children to go through the glass doors. We're going to meet your teachers out on the patio, and adults, if you want to form the Bridge of Love, we will sing them out. What are we singing today?
Dear friends.
Katie, what are we singing?
Dear friend. Dear friend, let me tell you how I feel. You have given me such treasure. I love you so. Dear friend, let me me tell you how I feel. You have given me such treasure. I love you so. Dear friend, let me tell you how I feel. You have given me such treasure. I love you so. Dear friend, let me tell you how I feel. You have given me such treasure. I love you so. Dear friend, let me tell you how I feel. You have given me such treasure. I love you so.
Such treasure, I love you so. I love you so. Such treasure, I love you so.
Take a moment to take a deep breath in your seat. The room shifts as the energy of our younger ones leaves. Hopefully they've left some of it behind for us too. Yeah. Look around the room. Just see who else is here now. Sometimes after we've seated, a whole bunch of other people show up. It's good to know who's in the room. This is a prayer for desert times by Margaret Keep. The journeys of our lives are never fully charted. There come to each of us deserts to cross, barren stretches where the green edge on the horizon may be our destination, or an oasis on our way, or mirage that beckons only to leave us lost. When fear grips the heart or despair bows the head, may we bend as heart and head lead us down to touch the ground beneath our feet. May we scoop up some sand into our hands and receive what the sand would teach us. It holds the warmth of the sun where the sun has left our sight, as it holds the cool of the night when the stars have faded. Hidden among its grains are tiny seeds at rest and waiting, dormant yet undefeated. Desert flowers, they endure, moistened by our tears and by the rains which come to end even the longest drought. They send down roots and they bloom. May we believe in those seeds and in the seeds within us. May we remember in our dry seasons that we too are desert flowers. Amen, and blessed be. I invite you now into a time of rituals in which you may choose to light a candle or move water into the fountain that is the water, the life water of this congregation. To move a stone into water, I've added one over there, or to move a stone in sand over here. And as we move in these rituals, we will sing to one another.
I invite you to sing in body or in spirit as we go into this time of centering. We shall be known. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. You can take a moment and partake in our rituals as we enjoy the piano. Let's sing it together again. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Hello again. So I know that the dust hasn't settled and not all the counting is finished, but it's looking like my big plan for becoming the first ever independent, nonpartisan governor of Arizona has been thwarted in last week's election. Here was the plan. I run for Maricopa County Recorder as independent Ken, because running elections and recording things should not be a partisan job. I do an exemplary job as recorder for a few years, and then I run for Secretary of State, taking election management statewide. All right, then once the elected governor dies or goes to prison, bam! Independent Ken is the governor of Arizona. Just think of how much I could change for the better if that happened. But no, the voters appear to have decided to create the position of lieutenant governor and blocked the pathway to glory for an independent candidate. Well, I've been retired for over 6 years now, and you may have noticed that I never did run for county recorder. I love the idea of a UU like me having that kind of an influence, but I also take my retirement seriously. Being governor, I think, is not one of those cushy part-time retirement jobs. So I never reached my tipping point on that big decision, and have now lost my opportunity to effect countless helpful changes for Arizona. But I have another grand plan to change the world for the better, the entire world. And I'm not going to do that either. But it's the old, write the great American novel dream. How hard could it be? My role model is Ayn Rand. Bear with me. She writes 2 works of fiction in the 1950s, The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged, which sold millions of common folk on the glory and glamour of pure free market capitalism. Through the magic of make-believe, she contrived a world where industrial leaders were tall, handsome people with angular features, all amazing, brilliant overachievers who carried the rest of us on their broad shoulders. Well, socialist types were pale, flabby, useless, lazy whiners who thought they should get a free ride and were ruining everything for everyone. Now, it's not that I agree with her philosophy. My father, who more than once told me as a child that we are Republicans, urged me to read Atlas Shrugged, and I was not that impressed by the story. But the influence it has had on others is remarkable. So why couldn't I cook up some similar work of fiction to convince the masses that we thrive on diversity and equality, something to tip us closer to the ideal of a self-governing democracy, to heal partisan politics, end war and suffering, stuff like that. Now, I even have a couple plot ideas. One was born from the idea that certain evangelicals appeared to believe that ex-President Donald Trump is the second coming of Christ. Now, I've read the New Testament, and I don't see the comparison at all. Makes you wonder, what might the second coming really look like? And how would a new Messiah move humankind forward from where we are today? I imagine an ordinary person who captures the news by healing the sick and walking on water, and they could become a super influencer with a liberal agenda, who wins over the megachurch members and is adored at big revival meetings across the Bible Belt. Could a fictional version be enough to motivate real-world change? Probably not, but maybe. It would have a better chance than waiting for the real thing to happen. Another storyline is a post-apocalyptic world that is not dystopian, one where communities band together for their own common welfare, where much of this pro-this and anti-that bickering loses its importance. Everybody becomes a conservationist, and economics is about ensuring that everyone's needs are met instead of hoarding wealth, where collaboration is the key to success, not guns. But creating a great novel sounds like a lot of work, too. Especially when you consider the odds of success. Now, if I can't actually change the world, why bother? If I ever did make the effort to be a writer, it would probably be a cookbook. But I haven't reached that tipping point yet either. I'm too busy doing easier tasks that don't include the fear of failure. Things that may touch a few lives, but not noticeably change the world. I'm a micro-influencer, if I'm any kind of influencer at all, striving to be a small force for good in my own little community.
So I don't know about you, but for me, election season is invariably a season of deep angst, as I hope for changes in beliefs and behavior that reflect the kind of community I would want to live in, kind of like what Ken described. In our country right now, we are experiencing a gap between our differing versions and visions for our communities that looms especially wide and deep. It even feels a little dangerous to attempt to cross the gap because the hostility is real. And some of our neighbors on the other side of the gap show up with loaded weapons, seemingly ready to enter violent confrontation over our different ideas about what's best for our shared future. Now, I began my adult working life as a community organizer in HUD housing, so the last 25 years have found me in various working roles where my job is literally to create change in the communities I have served. And over time, I have glimpsed little pieces of success and also felt the experience of what felt like real deep failures. If I was organizing a meeting, sometimes people came and enthusiastically brought their neighbors, and we suddenly had enough people with enough energy and persistence to pressure a landlord or a HUD official or city council to do something that would bring meaningful change. And sometimes 5 people showed up, and none of them wanted to do much more than just, complain. So the idea of a tipping point, enough people and power to turn a situation around, to change hearts and minds, enough people on the same page with agreement on what needed to be done, well, that's been kind of a unicorn for me. Real lasting change sometimes feels like a mirage in the desert, the hoped-for oasis that never materializes or is so short-lived, we're not sure it was ever really there. And as Ken pointed out, it sure looks like a lot of work. What if it's all in vain? So a book that I read recently titled Change, How to Make Big Things Happen by Damon Centola has offered some powerful insights for me. He shares his research that change begins at the periphery of our communities, not the center. The governor or the president are not actually the ones who make change happen. Now, you might intuitively know this is true, but we waste a lot of time trying to get important, well-connected people at the center of our communities and organizations to adopt change before the change has been adopted at the periphery. We seem to believe that these important people, once they've been educated about an idea or an issue or a new technology, will jump on board and bring everyone else with them. And then we'll be done, right? In truth, people at the center with many connections are often the ones holding traditions in place, and they stand to lose the most if they take on a change that hasn't begun to gather support and adoption. So in this way, we are actually more affected by something called network bias, which is the way our social networks invisibly share the beliefs we hold and the norms we follow, than we are individual biases. Here's something most of us don't think that is true about ourselves, but we definitely think is true about other people. Okay? I know you all think this isn't you. But we actually adopt changes in ideas and behaviors based on what other people in our social networks are doing and saying. Over and over again, Centola's research reveals that when enough people in our network are making a change or engaging in innovative technology or idea, we are willing to try it out too. Now, I know you all think you're more rational than that, right? You make decisions because you research stuff and analyze it, and it makes sense. You don't follow the crowd, right? Actually, all of the research shows that you just think that's what's happening. Now, there are early adopters to change and innovation, but even those folks need some kind of social reinforcement that what they are adopting is a good idea, or eventually they will move on to something else too. Maybe dejectedly, but they will. They don't need a whole crowd, though. Early adopters are usually in a small network where trying something new isn't a very big risk. They're in the periphery. Maybe they get a couple other people to try something new with them, and they have a sense of solidarity. Because they're in the periphery, there aren't a bunch of people watching them to see what they're doing and giving an opinion about it. That always kills change, right? Ken called this micro-influencers, and I love that. Sometimes after an idea or a strategy has momentum, an influential person in the center will notice the innovation, and they'll hold it up like a discovery, and then they'll take credit for the growth that continues to happen, right? Now, their engagement may cause a bump in interest, a surge, but they are unlikely to pick it up unless it's already carrying some energy and interest from other people. They may add some legitimacy for other well-connected people to try the innovative idea or action. They are actually, though, more likely to resist until enough people in the network periphery are doing it to give them some cover to try it. I mean, think about how long it took some of our political leaders to embrace gay marriage, even the ones who were otherwise liberal. Or for the Pope to finally talk about the church's role in using the doctrine of discovery to oppress indigenous people all over the world. It wasn't until the periphery was loud enough that they felt they had to change. So what paves the way to change or creates a blocked path? One thing that can pave the way is coordination. Are we doing this together? Doing things together creates a higher likelihood that we will keep doing it or believing it. If no one else that you know is doing it, and no one joins you, and you don't create a new community with people you've met who are doing it, then you likely won't keep doing it. And this is true whether the it is getting sober, or engaging a new hobby, putting solar panels on your house, or changing your diet, or voting, or enacting laws to protect LGBTQ folks, or changing laws about something else. Another thing is credibility. Are other people doing this whose opinion I trust? Now, this is a real challenge because people I trust doesn't always equal people who are trustworthy to others, right? But if you are the person who wants to make change happen, you want to present examples of people engaging the change who are similar or relevant or known to the people that you're trying to influence. And this is why it's so important to have difficult conversations with people you disagree with, but have an otherwise trusting relationship with. And it's also a reason to build a relationship with someone before you try to talk about the places where you are in conflict or have differences, because trust is so key. Another road paver or potential block is legitimacy. Are enough people doing it so that I don't risk losing my reputation or being embarrassed if I do believe or do the new things too? And are there some people who are like me so I don't lose credibility in a network that's important to me? This could be for something as seemingly simple as women choosing to keep the last name they were born with, or for a couple to choose a new last name for both people to use, or learning to use new pronouns for someone who doesn't identify as she or he, or learning to ask people what their preferred pronouns are, or coming out, or dating someone who is religiously, culturally, or racially different, at least according to your current network, right? One last factor is excitement. Does this change, idea, or action feel exciting? Are other people who are engaged in it generating a lot of excitement and energy? This is also called social effervescence. If it looks fun, and people seem to be finding joy and connection from it, or possibly power and prestige, you might be more interested in trying it out. So in any case, when change begins to happen, it's never because of one lone person. We are reminded that Rosa Parks was effective because she was not alone. She was part of a massive social network of citizens who coordinated their efforts to protest segregation in the American South. In fact, in any struggle for freedom, countless brave souls stand up vigilantly against oppression, and most of them are quickly silenced by the regime. But that's only if they act alone. Social networks are coordinating sinews that allow large numbers of regular people from many different walks of life to act together. When people act as part of a coordinated whole, then any one person's action carries with it a mass of anonymous people. And this is how revolutions are sparked. Sometimes it takes a while for the brave souls to find each other and coordinate their efforts, and for that coordination to have impact. Now, when I was organizing with the Poor People's Campaign, we started saying that it was going to take many Martins, each of us a Martin, to make the change happen. Now, Dr. King was an incredible leader, but change happened because of the network he built. The movement was also powerful because it began to draw people from many other networks that hadn't originally been connected to the work of racial justice. White college students and academics, clergy from many different religious backgrounds and cultural backgrounds, and ordinary people, housewives like Viola Liozzo, showed up. So what does this mean for us? Think about how UU the Vote has developed over the last couple of years. The idea was to organize first within our own communities. Now, that may have felt like preaching to the choir for some of you. It was. It turns out the choir needs to be preached to in order to reinforce lasting change and spread it. Redundancy, hearing the same message or idea or seeing the same new behavior over and over again within a trusted network, is what will spread the innovation and change it into a group norm. It's not a fast change, friends, but it is a deeper, more lasting change. Some of us feel like once we informed people why something was important and good, I sent them an email, I gave a talk, enough evidence, enough education, they would just do the thing, right? It would definitely be easier. But nope, that's not how humans work, y'all. Get Out the Vote work is centered on people reaching out to their close personal contacts and asking them to vote. Members of your congregation, your family, your friends. And once they've reported back, to reach out to their networks and do the same. Engaging these overlapping networks is how we have engaged so many more people in voting and in other related activities of engaged citizenship. Over time, how we think and feel about a new idea or behavior changes because of these multiple exposures. Any change that involves a real risk, financial, psychological, or reputational, requires more than simply coming into contact with a single random adopter or carrier of that change. In fact, people need to receive reinforcement or social proof from multiple adopters to be convinced, and for the new behavior to propagate. The more resistance there is to a new idea or behavior, the more social reinforcement is needed to persuade people to adopt it. And the higher the stakes of a decision and the greater the uncertainty, the more proof people require before taking the plunge. Making a change take hold in your community requires us to start small, to start at the periphery and then build bridges between social groups and networks, to make sure ideas and actions are carried between groups, that have a flow of ideas back and forth, and also continuing to develop relationships. One single person moving between groups is less effective than a strategy that develops a multiplicity of deepening relationships between groups that allow a real exchange of ideas and practices to take place. A single person is a narrow bridge and allows information to be shared, but doesn't usually lead to much social change or knowledge transfer. Wide bridges are better for organizations that are being connected to, because if you lose a broker, if that one single person gets tired or dies or leaves or changes their mind, you don't lose the connection to the group you're trying to connect with. A wide bridge with many connections means the conversations and ideas will continue to be exchanged and change will begin to happen. So that's why it's so important to have a team of people helping us collaborate with another organization or group instead of just a representative or a liaison. It seems simpler to just have one person, right? But the possibility of us carrying new ideas to the other organization and also receiving them is greater with more people involved. So for years, we've relied on this liaison model or representative model and lamented when it fails. It's also true that change is not one-directional in this model. You will be changed too. So the micro-influencer needs to make sure they're engaging with lots of other people and aren't doing the work alone, and also that they aren't afraid of changing themselves. This means finding ways that make sure that pockets of people who don't normally interact with each other start to interact and share ideas, ways of thinking and doing things. So like I said earlier, trust is a really important piece of this equation, and gaining someone's trust can be a hard task, and it can also be easily damaged. Sometimes powerful people who want to resist a particular change will engage in actions that purposely disrupt our expectations and norms in ways that are threatening and potentially harmful. Now, we saw this happen with McCarthyism, which used collective suspicion to weaken the social bonds within American communities, to eliminate trust within friendships, and to disrupt the infrastructure that would be needed to mount opposition to it. It was very effective. These same forces can be seen at play right now with Trumpism, with laws that ask neighbors to turn neighbors in for suspected abortions, or because their kid is transgender and receiving services to assist them, or when armed citizens show up at ballot drop boxes and take pictures or film folks dropping off their ballots, or violently disrupt important proceedings to stop them from happening. Our best protection against these practices is to deepen our relationships and to widen the bridges between our different groups, between organizations and identity and cultural groups, for example. That can seem counterintuitive because these disruptions may make us want to avoid people we perceive as on the other side or different. Those bridges may be harder to build, friends, but it's definitely necessary work if we want to make a way for change to take root. So, how does change actually take hold? How do we find tipping points? How many people have to engage a new idea or behavior before it takes hold in a group? So one study found that the culture of a company that predominantly had male leadership and a workforce that was male would begin to change in ways that would reflect and respect female leadership and feminist values significantly only when the leadership of women was somewhere between 20 and 35% of the organization. Below 20%, things not only stayed the same, sometimes the culture of misogyny and harassment of women got worse, more entrenched. Think about the ways you'd like to see organizations and communities that you're a part of change. Maybe you hope this congregation will become more attractive to younger people, or more people who are LGBTQ, or will be more welcoming to people of color or people with disabilities. If there are 300 members here, at least 75 would have to share that characteristic or be in leadership for us to reach a tipping point. And they would have to have enough relationship with each other until that tipping point is reached to overcome the tension of being different or outside the norm in some way. Some of you in this room know exactly what I'm talking about right now because you currently lie outside the perceived norm, whatever it is. And remember, it's not these new groups of people that change because they came here. It's the rest of you that begin to change in ways that are more supportive and in alignment with their needs, more inclusive of a wider range of ideas. So in essence, you have to be willing to change and not be entrenched yourself. As Santola says, the tipping point is really just the point at which people could no longer coordinate with one another without changing their behavior. To be successful, activists within a group need to make up about 25% of the group in order to begin to have an impact that reaches a tipping point for that group. Where you hope to be an agent or change in your organization, in your congregation, in your city, or your country, wherever that is, 25%. Now, these can be manipulated in ways that exploit trust and erode our understanding of the truth. For example, the Chinese government has been especially nefariously good at this. They developed something called the 50-cent party, which is made up of people who will create an information flow that is distracting and deceptive in exchange for money from the government. Not a lot, but just a little, for each time they do it. And in China, and increasingly in the United States, the dangers of deception on social media and other media allow coordinated actors with unsettling ease to tip social norms without anyone ever realizing it. And it's not a secret. Everyone knows the 50-cent party exists. They just can't easily distinguish when it's at play. The actors are already part of the network, and they flood it with conversations and ideas that are meant to move the discourse in another direction. They don't even censor, y'all. They're just moving the discourse somewhere else. They cleverly blanket the media with whatever else it is that they've decided to blanket it with. Distorting a network is one way that some leaders prevent change from happening. This is why we need to think of social media as a tool we use to support real-life relationships and interactions, not as a stand-in for having relationships, conversations, and interactions in real life. We'll never be able to combat this kind of social distortion otherwise, right? In order to be a successful innovation, a change in ideas and behavior, and beliefs and actions, we need to use and allow a diversity of ideas to promote an ease of collaboration and allow independent exploration. No more silos. Those wide bridges between groups and organizations can facilitate learning and mutual understanding, but only when interactions are framed in a way that makes diverse participants relevant to each other. What are we talking about that matters to us? What can we find in common? What kind of activity or project is deep enough for us to establish real relationships with each other? If you went to an event and didn't come back with new contacts or plans to talk and meet again or work on a project, or didn't come back feeling moved and inspired to do something, then it wasn't relevant enough. There's got to be an exchange of some kind. Even more important, rather than thinking about other people's biases individually, we need to understand that the most consequential forms of bias are not in people's heads, but rather in their social networks. In order to create change, you have to have more than one conversation with more than one person in the network, on more than one occasion. Because biases make us more likely to choose answers that are familiar rather than correct, even when those mistakes are costly. The problem is that our biases and the networks that reinforce them can prevent us from finding new ways of solving hard problems. They can keep us from seeing clearly the information that is right in front of us. Thankfully, the network periphery can and does support real change. This isn't just how we get other people to change, it's also fundamentally about how we ourselves need to be prepared to change. We need to avoid being the kind of people who are never in doubt, but frequently wrong. You know, as my mom describes it. Engaging people we disagree with feels scary, but remaining in our silos prevents change. I want to invite you to think about what this model for change looks like as you think about this congregation. This year, I want you to engage in new conversations with new people. People who have been here, but you never got to know them. People who are considering being members here or visiting. People who maybe come from a different social context than you. I want you to also think about these ideas when you engage in shared work with other faith communities and other organizations. How can we build wider bridges that foster relevant relationship and collaborations? How might these allow an exchange of ideas and strategies for our communities that can address the issues we care about, like housing shortages and homelessness, poverty and access to quality education, reproductive justice and LGBTQ rights, racial justice and reparations, protecting the earth and its resources? Friends, let's do this work together, knowing we will all be both the changer and the changed. We will cross-pollinate ideas in ways we haven't imagined and with results we've dreamed of but didn't know we could create. Change won't happen because someone smarter than you or more well-connected or famous led it. It won't happen because you gave everyone a lot of information. It will happen because you started a conversation, tried something new, and shared it with your own friends and family, and over time, that small conversation and change was adopted by more people who did the same. Over time, the conversation changed when more voices were added, and change will also happen because you were willing to listen to and follow someone else. Hey, Ken, good news. It turns out it's actually a whole bunch of micro-influencers working in their own little networks that make change happen. May it be so. Today and every day, we work for change together. Blessed be.
Thank you, Linda. Before the ushers come forward to take up the offering, I have a couple of relevant announcements. It's time for the annual pledge drive, and the stewardship and music committees are collaborating to host, and I'm going to say this kind of slowly, a karaoke chili cook-off pledge drive kickoff party. Yes, next Saturday, November 19th, 5 o'clock. It will feature a diverse array of chilies and chili accessories, plus a karaoke DJ and plenty of room to dance. Please come enjoy music and a meal as an early thank you for all the ways you will support this community in the coming year. And just as an update, we have 14 chilies now entered in our chili contest, which we are certain can feed over 100 people. So please come. You needn't bring anything but your appetite and your dancing feet and your singing voices, and have a good time with us. Secondly, the Fund Together auction team is collecting donations now for the 2023 fundraising auction. Please consider donating a service or hosting an event. How can you share your gifts with this community? See the weekly happenings publication for more details. Now, will the ushers please come forward to receive the offering, while those at home will see a variety of ways to contribute to the virtual plate. Thank you all for your generosity.
Ken and I invite you into these closing words, which are responsive reading. Nurture This Precious Life by Naomi King. How shall we begin to live out our free faith?
Nurture this precious life.
When we do, we are beacons of freedom, creating a safe place to rest, explore, and innovate.
Nurture this precious light.
How we keep this lamp of truth and justice affects how and whether we are transforming inequity through witness and action.
Nurture this precious life.
As we nurture this precious light together, we become a light of hope, turning isolation into community, anguish into peace, sorrow into joy.
Nurture this precious light.
As we do, our faith becomes a steady flame of innovation, banishing illusion, creating a new and renewing way together.
Nurture this precious light.
With our living connections and our glowing stories, with our flame of freedom moving hand to hand, we
Nurture this precious light.
together we turn this world from a bleak to bright, one flame, one fire, one light at a time. Blessed be.
All right, let's stand in body or in spirit and sing our closing song from our hymnal, Building a New Way. Feel free to groove in this. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. Feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, this world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
Won't you join us in the extinguishing of our chalice with the words on our slide? Though we extinguish the chalice, our connection to each other and this community remains. May its light guide us this week as we walk the path of justice, speak words of love, and fill our world with compassion until we meet again. Go in peace, but help us build a bigger bridge between the volunteers who are currently working with Ascend and iHelp and the folks who are working with Paz de Cristo who will be here, are here to share some information with you about those organizations and how you can help us partner with them better. There will be food, so if you're going to stay, come to the front and we'll feed you and get it going in a few minutes. Also, there's a little conversation that's also beginning that Deanne's leading for folks who are interested in a short meeting to discuss public relations and getting our name and good works into the world so we can invite more people into this game. So they're going to meet in the library right after service. So welcome group, Paz de Cristo and iHelp, coffee, conversation, go meet someone you haven't talked to before, and go.
Check.
Excellent, sir.
Check, check, check. I think as long as I have this mic on, and you take
Everything's still
else
on.
down, you can take everything else down. Just leave that. Okay.
Broken chair.
If you're not careful, you're going to turn this into a mega church.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Well, no, not a mega church. You know, one of those great big churches.
Right. Thanks. Thanks, Ann. If you're going to be here for the conversation with Ascend and Paz de Cristo, we invite you to come on up front. We're setting out some yummy stuff for you to eat so that you won't starve while you listen to information. We like people to have food. It's good. So come on back if you're going to be part of our conversation about building a wider bridge to the organizations that we partner with. And everyone who's here, you will have a responsibility to tell other people what you learned.
You are just the best.
No. Okay, if you're wanting to grab snacks, come do it. Come grab yourself a little plate full of stuff so you can nosh while we connect. And who's speaking today? We've got Priscilla. And who else is speaking? And you, okay. So you're welcome to use this and walk around. If you want to go up to the podium, you can do that. If you want to be down here and move a music stand, I'll use this to pass around if you're using the upper one for people to ask questions. Good deal? It's up to you.
Would you let drinks outside? At the moment, there's no drinks.
Oh, yeah. There's drinks outside. Grab one and come back in. And then tell one of those people that's standing out here that they really should come inside and learn more about these important organizations.
Is Mr. Dunnigan here today?
No.
Okay, I'll give him an email.
Okay.
I heard you suggested he would bring a chili, but I don't think he signed up.
No, he hasn't signed up, but he's definitely thinking about bringing one. So a little nudge from you would be more helpful than a nudge from his wife. Remember, multiple connections, multiple people telling you the same thing is how you finally get it to happen. I'm going to take my own advice and get food.